Hello and welcome to the No Balls Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick McDonald, with me co-host Sheldon Kaufman. Today we are doing the great shooting guards that are not Michael Jordan episode. I think this is a really fun topic. I don't think it's talked about enough because everybody knows the best shooting guard is Michael Jordan. We're going to talk about the guys that are Michael Jordan. Before we get started, Sheldon, I believe you have a trivia question for me today. What do we got?
Yeah, Pat, hopefully this one will stump you. I haven't been doing too good, and if you get this one, I will be pretty surprised. All right. So the question is, who is the first NBA player to be drafted number one overall from a foreign country?
No multiple choices.
No, this is no multiple choices.
Okay.
I'll give you a hint. It was in 1978.
Oh, damn. Okay. So that makes my chances a little bit. See, because I feel like if it was in the 90s, I would have had it because I would have been able to like work through it. Um, is no, that wouldn't line up time wise because I was thinking like Arvydas Sabonis. Um, but I don't think it's Arvydas Sabonis. I think he was a little bit later than that. Hakeem went number one in '84. But he wasn't even from overseas. He has ethnicity from overseas. So I think you might have me with a no answer here. Yeah, I don't
All
got it.
right. It's Trailblazers legend Michael Thompson from the Bahamas.
Yeah, no,
Also, they said it came from Nigeria. He was the second overseas player to go number one overall. I don't know if it's the nationality. Oh wait, yeah,
I
nationality.
would think that's nationality.
Yeah. But yeah, Michael Thompson.
Damn. See, I didn't know he was even, but Bahaman? Is that it? Like I don't know.
Yeah, or Bohemian maybe, but
Bohemian?
that doesn't sound right.
No,
Bahamian.
that's the song.
Yeah, that's
Um, But yeah, I know that was a good one. That one, I don't think I
fine.
would have even gotten that one with the multiple choice.
Yeah, I didn't want
'Cause
to give you any chances though.
I did know he was a top pick, but I would not have guessed him. That's crazy. All right, shooting guards, the taller of the guard positions, um, typically the ones with the ball in their hands less. Shooting guards, Michael Jordan, probably the greatest shooting guard of all time. I didn't do anything for Jordan for this episode. You said that you did. I guess for the people who are unaware, what are we looking at with Michael Jordan?
Yeah, well, you're looking at probably consensus top two overall player of all time. A lot of debate about who number one is overall, but we're not getting into that. It's not that kind of episode. Played 10,070 or whoa, 1,072 games. He averaged 30 points per game over his career, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Decent from the field, 50%, and 32% from the 3-point line. He was a 4-time All-Star, 10-time scoring champ, 3-time steals champ, 6-time NBA champ, uh, 84, 85 Rookie of the Year, 9-time All Defense. So he could do it from both sides of the ball. He was an elite finisher around the rim, great mid range, and he was really clutch. Pat, um, 1992 Finals, he had 35 in the first half. 97 Finals in the flu game where he had 38 points. And then he had a big shot against the Jazz in 98 where he crossed over
Yeah,
Byron Russell, I think, to
second
win his
second
sixth
three-peat.
final.
That's all I remember
Yeah,
for Emmett.
yeah. So just really incredible stuff. Super clutch. And his career high in points was 69. Pause. And a 117 to 113 win over the Cavs. I don't have the year on that, but yeah, I mean, one of the best to ever do it from that position, and he was really locked down. He was a two-way player, um, defensive wise. Like I said, 3-time steals champs and 9-time All Defensive player. So,
Yeah,
and he really did just a great finisher around the rim too. Crazy layup package.
and the single game playoff points leader of all time with 63. against the Pistons in the late 80s in a game which the Bulls lost. So crazy stuff. You get any like points per game leader in the playoffs? It's probably Michael Jordan. Like he like was a great scorer and very well acquitted to play in the late 80s and the 90s. Just, that style of basketball was Michael Jordan, and then there was a 10-year period where teams just became horrible offensively because they wanted to play like Jordan. So yeah, Michael Jordan, excellent basketball player, did the reverse Curry, and yeah, led to some interesting basketball that we're going to talk about today in the early 2000s. And then we're basically, the prompt that we set out for today is how do we sort out all the rest of the shooting guards after Michael Jordan? And we set our time period to start in the 2000s. So I guess let's go at number 2. For me, this is kind of the main topic of this episode. I had 3 guys who I could consider for 2. How many guys did you have in consideration for the second spot?
For 2, I really only got one guy in consideration here, Pat. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, more specific, tier wise. Yeah,
For this tier, for the second
yeah,
tier.
yeah.
Yeah, three guys. 3 or 4.
Is
Yeah, I'm
the
gonna go
or
3 guys.
four is the or
Huh?
four yeah is the
Is
or
the
four guy Allen Iverson?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my 4th guy who I was on the fence about. I think I ultimately leaned no. So for those who don't know, the 3 guys that we're in consideration for in the top 3 after Jordan is Kobe Bryant, James Harden, and Shaedon Sharpe. Dwayne Wade, by the way, not Shaedon Sharpe. But I guess where do we want to start with this one? I'm assuming you had one guy who was the clear in doubt 2 guy, and I am interested in hearing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be Kobe Bryant. This is a guy who basically was Michael Jordan after Michael Jordan retired. A lot of similar play style where you saw with the fadeaway, the shimmy shake and fade. Probably one of the most respected players in the league. Incredible hard worker, insane finisher around the rim, especially earlier in his career when he was just a high flyer. But later in his career, he turned into a pretty good shooter from the mid range shot, the 3. While he did have times, sometimes he liked to shoot the ball when like double teamed and wasn't the best passer. I still think that this is one of the best shooting guards of all time. He averaged 25 points per game, 5 boards, 4 assists. He shot 32% from the 3-point line, 44% from the field goal. 42% from the field. 18-time All-Star, 2-time scoring champ. So obviously he can score the ball. He won 5 rings, 15-time All NBA player, and also a 12-time defensive team nominee. So like I said about Jordan, he was locked down he was a 2-way player. He could lock down the other team's best players, and he would also go drop buckets on you. I think most notably, he scored 81 points, which is second all time in the regular season behind Wilt in 05 and 06. And he was a very clutch player. In the 2010 finals, he had a Game 7 shot. He shot a Game 7 shot to beat the Boston Celtics, 107-106. In the 2000 NBA Finals, he had a shot with 2.5 seconds left to beat the Pacers and win the chip. So just a extremely clutch player that was able to get it done in the playoffs, which I think is really important when we talk about these kind of tiers. And he's a proven winner, and he was really hard to guard. Kobe Bryant was.
Yeah, and just so we're not leaving anybody out, he was actually the 3rd single game scorer. Timothy Mozgov, as one would know, dropped 116 points for the Lakers at one point in time. No one talks about it, but you can look it up. The graphic exists. But yeah, Kobe Bryant was really great. And I don't think I can really make an argument saying that there is another shooting guard that is greater than him. I don't think that argument necessarily exists. Maybe more so, I think that there's a possibility that I can argue that some players were on at least the same talent level as Kobe Bryant, or potentially could have even been better. And I think that conversation is more talked about with the Dwayne Wade James Harden debate, because Dwayne Wade, like, I think it happened when Harden was at his peak and everybody wanted to talk about how good Harden was because he was ridiculous. And they were like, yeah, sure, Dwayne Wade's probably has a greater resume, right? But what James Harden is doing right now is talent wise as good as what Dwayne Wade was doing. And I think there's just as much of an argument that Dwayne Wade at his peak was playing at a similar level to Kobe Bryant. And then, by the transverse theory, I don't know, geometry is slipping my mind. By that theory, you can say that Harden was also playing on the level of Kobe Bryant. I think that is kind of the main topic of this episode today, kind of sorting through, as individual talents, who is the best player, because we can obviously read off the accolades of Kobe Bryant, and it's undeniable that, yeah, he goes after Mike. Even if, like, we think that Harden or Wade could have potentially peaked higher, we're not sure that they have. Over the course of their careers, like, your average Kobe Bryant season was definitely better than your average Dwayne Wade and Harden season. Like, Kobe Bryant's, like, one of his top seasons was as a 34-year-old, and then he blew his Achilles out after that. But that was one of his best seasons. So Harden, Wade, I guess the first important thing to do is establish peaks. So I guess in this situation, I'm assuming you want to take the Harden side.
Yeah. Do you want? Yeah, for sure. What with peak? You mean like kind of a year time frame?
I was thinking 2 to 3 years, probably establish a 2 to 3 year peak, because
I got a great 3 year stretch for Harden. So, but all right. So we'll start off in 2017, 2018, where James Harden won the MVP. He was averaging 30 points a game. 30 points a game on 44% from the field shooting and 36% from the 3-point line. And that's above average for this time frame. About 7 years ago, that was probably well above average, league average, I'm sure. I don't know what the league average was at that time, but he also had 7.5 assists. And that's where I think Harden really has the leg up here on Dwayne Wade, is the playmaking aspect of it. Especially from a numbers standpoint. I think that that James Harden just was a better passer, better assist creator for his teammates. And this is a team that doesn't have the star power that I feel like Dwayne Wade had throughout his career. Shaq right before his big decline, and then of course Chris Bosh and LeBron James for the big three stretch. I mean, yeah, he had Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook throughout certain years, but then the guys around him were like Clint Capella, who I don't think is like a crazy impactful center, especially on offense. He really relies on people around him to get him the ball. Chris Paul, not really known to be the best scorer, especially later in his career. Really more of an assist maker. And then besides that, you have PJ Tucker, who's a good 3-and-D guy. And then coming off the bench, you have guys like Nene and Kenneth Faried, who are like basically in retirement homes at that point. But he was, 54% efficiency field goal percentage. James Harden had a great way of getting to the line. He shot great from there, 85% from the free throw line. So yeah, I think he's a little bit of an underrated defender. I'm not going to say that defense was one of his strong suits, but he averaged almost 2 steals a game that year. So yeah, I think that's my first case for that year.
Yeah. So that was.
What do we think? That was 2017, 2018.
Yeah, and then if you expand it up to 3, I'm assuming you're including the 2019 season as well.
Yeah, I'm literally gonna go 018, 019, and then probably 2019, 2020 as well.
Yeah, that's probably how I would have done it. That 17-16 season was also like electric, and notably one of his better passing seasons. Although it is technically a point guard season on Basketball Reference, so I don't
Yeah, I
know.
see that.
So Dwayne Wade, for me, I think it's very interesting because everybody remembers 2006 Dwayne Wade in the finals. Everybody remembers Big Three Dwayne Wade with LeBron James and Chris Bosh. Nobody remembers Dwayne Wade the 3-4 years in between that, which I think is kind of where the Dwayne Wade discourse goes pretty awry. I'm gonna start in 2008, 2009, and then we're gonna go all the way down to 2009, 2010, with the best season in there being 2008, 2009.
So you're starting
Did
in 07, 08, and
708,
going to 09, 010, or
yeah,
09, 10. Bet, bet,
yeah.
bet,
So
bet, bet.
that 3 year stretch.
Word.
Um, Over the course of those 3 years, Dwayne Wade averaged 27 and a half, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, a block, and 2 steals. Um, 48% from the field, 31% from three attempts a game. Ultimately, once you do all the advanced math, it's around a 57% true shooting, which relative to the league was 2% above league average, 5% above league average, 3% above league average. So like he was, pretty efficient, high usage player, and was actually a really good passer too. Right, he averaged 7 a game, and yeah, he was ridiculously good. If you want to look at uh, defensively, I think this is a big case for him standing out against Harden, right? He finished third in Defensive Player of the Year in
Yeah.
2009. He finished third in MVP behind Kobe and LeBron. And that was like the season where everybody wanted, the finals to hurry up because it was going to be Kobe versus LeBron. Like it was a really, contested. It was a very like stacked point in time at the top of the league. I think very similar to what we're seeing today right now. On these Heat teams, I mean, Dwayne Wade carried them to 43 wins a season. On these teams, Sean Marion, Jermaine O'Neal, Udonis Haslam in his mid-20s, like a bust rookie Michael Beasley. Like that's where the talent is on these Miami Heat team players, and I think talent wise, I think this team is very much a far cry from Houston Harden teams. Like I think those teams are just a lot better than what Dwayne Wade was playing with here. Um, yeah, I think reading off the counting numbers, I don't think it is the real pusher for Dwayne Wade. I think there's some more arguments to get to. 17, 18, 18, 19, 20, 19, 20. James Harden was a still pretty solid passer, right? 8.5 a game, 7.5, 7.5. Thing is, if you context that next to turnovers, 4.5 turnovers a game, 5 turnovers a game, 4.5 turnovers a game, versus when you look at Dwayne Wade averaging similar passing numbers, as far as volume goes. He's averaging. It left my screen, of course. Here we go. 4.5, 3.5, 3.5. So about the same volume. It's 7.5 in favor of Harden to seven assists for Dwayne Wade, and then about 4.5 turnovers a game to 3 turnovers a game. So marginally, I do think that at least during that point in time in their career, Dwayne Wade was about as valuable as a passer. I think since we've seen more of James Harden's career, like we've seen him as the old washed up vet for the Clippers and the Nets. I don't think he's necessarily washed up, but we've seen a post Houston Harden, and we can say, hey, this guy's a pretty good passer. Or even the year before, where he was significantly a better passer than his peak years. We can say that there is probably some a higher degree than he had in those seasons. Some of that with Chris Paul playing, but on the fact of teammate quality in 2018, 2017, 2018, when James Harden was on the floor, the Rockets outscored teams at 10.5 per 100. When Harden was off the floor, it was still a +5. And then this is pretty consistent with 18-19 when Harden was out there, outscored by 6.5. When Harden was not on the floor, it was a 1.5, or it was a 1. And 2020, there's a stronger signal, but it's only a 5.5 on court value. And then if you go and look at Dwayne Wade in like these peak seasons, because I think that's where the strong case is for Dwayne Wade. He outscored when Dwayne Wade was on the floor in 2009, 2010. They were plus 6.7 with Dwayne Wade on the floor. When with Dwayne Wade off the floor, they were like a -8, -9. And then in 08, 09, they were plus 3.2 with Dwayne Wade on the floor. When Dwayne Wade was off the floor, they were a -11. And then, in 2007-08, like the most egregious case, they were still getting outscored with Dwayne Wade on there, but they were significantly worse with Dwayne Wade off the floor. I think just teammate quality wise, Dwayne Wade played in his peak with just some kind of shit teammates, and then he gets some of the best teammates in the world for the end of his prime, and people remember that and more apply his teammate quality to what happened at the end of his career versus what happened over the course of it. I'll give you the floor here on James Harden.
All right. I think the my main argument here has to be the scoring. Probably one of the best scoring stretches we've ever seen. I mean, Harden was, and definitely the 3-point shooting as well. I mean, I don't think it's really a question that Harden is a better 3-point shooter than Dwayne Wade, and also the ball handling skills from James Harden were out of this world. I mean, he revolutionized the step back three. And the 3-year stretch that I mentioned, 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, he was taking 10 3-pointers a game in 17, 18, 13 and 18 and 19, and 12 and 19 and 20. And he averaged over 35% from three in all three of those 3 years, 36, 36, and 35%. And Dwayne Wade shot 30%, I think, in those 3 years that you mentioned, all while taking 2 or 3 a game. So obviously a big gap there. I think the scoring as well. I mean, averaged 30 points, 36 and 34. He came in MVP voting. He was top 3 all 3 years. He lost twice to Giannis. Giannis's first year winning MVP, he lost when he averaged 36 points a game, and then he averaged 34 the next year. So definitely the scoring part, I think he has, and then also he was very good at getting to the line, whether that be foul baiting or what. I think he was incredible. We look at the free throws attempted a game, he was 10, 11, and 11. And we talk about the teammate play, but Harden was doing this when he had those guys around him. He was still averaging 36, 34, 30. And I genuinely do not think that this team would have done anything in the playoffs against the Warriors, even though they didn't really do anything against the Warriors. But I think James Harden was really the only reason they would get to those conference finals and really even have a chance against the Warriors. Because during that stretch, I mean, they were the only team in the Western Conference that could even really challenge them. But yeah, I think he has that. I just go to the scoring. I mean, in 2019, 2020, he averaged 43.6 points in 1 month. He averaged 43.6 points, 8.7 rebounds, and 7.6 assists. And that's just in 1 month. And during that stretch, he averaged 40 points a game, like over 10 games, which I don't think it's very hard to do again, but I know Dwayne Wade could never really get to those numbers consistently at like the 40 point a game threshold, in my opinion. I think, yeah, the turnovers do hurt for Harden. I might be wrong in saying this, but I feel like maybe he had the ball a little bit more. I mean, I just remember watching that. Even though he was a shooting guard, he was mainly initiating the offense. So, I mean, more opportunities for some turnovers. And it was only one turnover more a game. I don't think that's too bad, but I think Dwayne Wade definitely has the edge in DP and defensive, in the defensive, because he was just way better than he was just an elite defender throughout his career, especially during that peak. And I think while Harden may be a little overhated on the defensive end, he definitely was nowhere near Dwayne Wade. But I think I just have to go to the overall scoring aspect of it to why he was a better player. I just think the scoring peak is really just something that we haven't really seen in a while.
Yeah, I see it for sure. On the usage stuff, and these 3 peak seasons that we've pulled up, Harden was a 37.7 usage, Dwayne Wade was a 34.3. So they were both really high usage players, and in these seasons the passing numbers look like pretty identical, right? Like they're 6, and I pulled up the numbers per 100 possessions just because I think it more contextualize the rate at which they were doing these things. Per 100 possessions, James Harden was 10.5 assists and 6.2 turnovers. Dwayne Wade was 9.9 assists, 5.1 turnovers. So, like, on an efficiency basis, Dwayne Wade is a tick better, and a volume basis, they are about the same. I still do think that Harden was a better passer because we have what happened before and since then to say that he just, he was on a team with Chris Paul. He didn't need to be the main facilitator. On the scoring volume aspect, James Harden was 44.8 points per 100 possessions, and Dwayne Wade was 39. So actually a lot more similar than I think the counting numbers were. I think Harden was about plus 7 or 8 on just the point per game basis, and then here it's like a plus 4 or 5. I think as far as scoring volume goes, I do think it favors Harden, but I think defensively and at least playmaking wise during these seasons, Dwayne Wade kind of had a slight edge just on the turnover basis. I'll make the defensive argument because I think that's huge here. The Heat were a 11th ranked defensive team in 2000 in that season that I just said. I'm not going to say it again because I keep messing up these years. In that individual season, when Dwayne Wade was on the floor, they were a 107.3 defensive team defensive rating wise. When Dwayne Wade was off the floor, they were a 110.5. So Dwayne Wade took them from being like a really good defense when he's on the floor to when he was off the floor, they were like they're treading water, which is extremely rare for a guard. Like that never happens for guard defenders. If you want to look at like just the Heat, or not the Heat, but like the rates at which he racked up stuff, because I think that's a very interesting way to look at it. His block and steal rates were like kind of ridiculous. Like at this point he's at like 3% on block and steal rates, like 2.5 on block and steal rates for both in this time period, which is like a really high number, like all defensive number. Dwayne Wade was like legit defensively, like being that much of a needle mover defensively from the guard position is just like really rare. And that's the argument for me. I do think Dwayne Wade was definitely a better player than James Harden. And I think if we make a greatness argument, what do we think? Do we think the greatness or the better player argument?
I think the peak, maybe the Dwayne Wade case is a lot stronger and probably wins just because of the defensive stuff. But I think all time, I don't see how it's not. I feel like you got to lean Harden because
Yeah.
like we said, I mean the assist numbers for him are crazy right now just because of like what he ended up doing. And like you said, later in his career, he became way more of a passer. Um, because he's averaging 7.2 assists throughout his career, and Dwayne Wade's at 5. Um, and yeah, just throughout, and then like we said, Dwayne Wade ended up declining throughout his career, especially on those Bulls teams and those some of the Cavs teams. And his 3-point shooting just really took a hit. I mean, he's under 30% career wise, and Harden's still over 35%. And Harden does not shoot 10 threes a game anymore, and really isn't a little bit below league average now, which isn't usual for him. But yes, Dwayne Wade has the resume with the championships, the all defensive teams. He made 3 of them, and he won a Finals MVP. But I don't know. It's hard. I mean, James Harden is still playing, and he's still a pretty elite guard in the league right now. Or he's not an elite guard, but he's a very good guard, and he's a very good guard in the league right now. Um, he's still scoring. I mean, he's at 22 points per game and 11 assists, or not 11 assists, like 7 assists this year. And he really isn't showing many signs of stopping down. So I think I think James Harden is just going to keep building on this resume and eventually can overtake Wade. But I think I think your argument, the 3-year stretch, I think the peak. I think you might have the peak.
Yeah.
But just I think the defense is huge because I think if Dwayne Wade wasn't as good as a defender as he was, Harden's just straight scoring is a little bit better than Wade's, just because of the 3 ball. But because Harden could also get to the rim, let's not forget that. While he wasn't dunking like D Wade was, he was pretty crafty at finishing. I think Dwayne Wade's more of a ferocious finisher around there, but Harden could get there.
Harden could get to the rim. You could not stop Dwayne Wade from getting to the rim. That was the thing with them. I think Harden too. I think the big argument for Harden is like throughout his entire Houston career, really, he was like one of the most efficient volume scorers like almost ever. Like him, Nikola Jokic, and Steph Curry have like some of the most efficient offensive seasons outside of like a Michael Jordan season or like a LeBron James season. Like those are probably the next couple guys who have some of the most ridiculous efficiencies ever. Like volume scores are usually between like a 95 to 105 true shooting plus. And James Harden throughout his entire Houston stretch was like a 111, 112. Ridiculous. Basically saying he's 12% more efficient than the average player, which doesn't happen with high volume players. I think the average James Harden season is definitely better than the average Dwayne Wade season. Right now, James Harden's 35, averaging 22 and 22 and 9, and is still an above average score, like efficiency wise. When Dwayne Wade was 35, that was not him. That was Derrick Rose. But he was close to retiring on a Miami Heat team. He not contemplating retiring on a Cleveland Cavaliers team. I think the longevity aspect really helps Harden and gives him a chance, but I just don't think at peak wise, like Dwayne Wade was a worse player than James Harden. I think Dwayne Wade was a better peak player. Even with how great of a scorer Harden was, like it kind of had some Tyreek Hill aspect to it where you remember the one season where the Dolphins decided to just be a mediocre team, but they just threw the ball to Tyreek Hill all the damn time to try to get him the all-time receiving yards stuff. Maybe that was an out-of-base take, but they were almost sacrificed on the fact of Harden, right? Like there was probably a way that the Chris Paul Harden teams were more optimally played. Even the year with Westbrook, there was probably a way that they were more optimally played if Harden wasn't selling out for huge scoring numbers, because you see those huge scoring numbers and you're like, yeah, they should be a lot better when Harden's out there, because there's a Kobe Bryant season that we'll talk about later that, like, when Kobe went to the bench because he had those ridiculous volume scoring seasons, that because he almost had to, right? Kobe Bryant had to have those ridiculous volume scoring seasons. This happens with Dwayne Wade kind of in this stretch too. When Dwayne Wade and Kobe would go to the bench, they're getting killed. When Harden's going to the bench in these times, like, Houston's still outscoring teams, which is, it,
I'm trying to figure out how.
some of it is because they stagger Chris Paul and Harden. Like,
Yeah.
that's like a lot of it actually. Like, when there's these huge lineup discrepancies, it's always going to be some staggering stuff that's going on. It happens even in the league today. Like,
Oh yeah, Luka and LeBron.
the Pacers are, like, I know this because I just did a Pacers video. The Pacers right now are better with Tyrese Halliburton off the floor, because when Tyrese Halliburton's not out there, they put their best two-way players out there. Like, they don't put one-way players out there when Halliburton's off the floor, because they need all their good offensive players out there. And that's something we talked about in the preseason show, so we got to tap ourselves on the back because we pointed that one out. Yeah, Harden, I do think it's hard to really pinpoint how crazy of a box score impact, or not even box score, but just impact on the team that his volume scoring had. I don't know, because a lot of the time, if we're in this situation, we're like, I would have wished he played with better teammates, because that's what we're saying with Dwayne Wade and Kobe Bryant probably during their peak scoring seasons. I feel like with James Harden, that's not the argument. It's, I wish he played with different talent, so we could have seen him, next to, like, if he would have played next to DeMarcus Cousins instead of Chris Paul, like, what does that look like? Because
Yeah, it's like I'm just looking at the teams and I'm just surprised they never, like, they always just had two guys and then like they never really had that third go-to option. I mean, like, I don't know, maybe I'm tripping. I feel like they could have got maybe someone a little bit more impactful to help them get over that hump to beat the Golden State Warriors, cuz like I don't know, like 30-year-old Eric Gordon,
I,
32-year-old Eric Gordon. I
I
mean,
was more so saying rather than Chris Paul, not additionally to Chris Paul,
yeah, like a bit like an actual score. Like a good like 25,
or
22.
like, I don't know, like what if it was Paul George, or that's probably a similar
Kevin
caliber
Durant.
player.
Oh wait.
And Kevin Durant would have, I don't know. Kevin
No,
Durant's
I was good.
interesting. There's
That was a Nets foreshadowing. The big three on the Nets. That
there's
was my
um yeah, like, I just think if Harden would have played with players that more complemented him during his prime, I would feel a lot more comfortable. But when Chris Paul goes out there, right, when they were on the team together, it was basically like how a modern offense would play, where one of them's always on the floor, and it's really hard to tell. Like, you could tell James Harden's a lot better than, like, you could tell he's marginally, not even marginally, like, decently better than Chris Paul, but it kind of just muddies up how good of a player James Harden was, because even when they were both out there, like, it's hard to say that they were making each other better by sharing the floor together. So I don't know. I kind of wish Harden just played with different,
Do you
like,
agree
a
with the
different,
I kind of feel the same way with Westbrook, like, or is that crazy when he was on the
when he was there instead of Paul.
yeah.
Yeah, I
I
feel
feel
very
like
similarly.
it was like a weird kind of,
It was,
it didn't really gel.
they were good enough to make it still good, is what it was.
Yeah.
It was never like,
Couldn't get him over the hump.
yeah, it was never like LeBron and Kyrie Irving, like, they fit together like a glove. Like, it was never anything like that. Or even a better example, like Steph Curry and Draymond Green, there's like this exponential effect with combining them together. Like, Draymond Green with and without Curry is just, it's miles. Like, it's a different world on the offensive side of the floor, at least. Um So yeah, I guess we're kind of now in a position where we're just talking in a position where we kind of agree. So comparing to Kobe Bryant, I guess this is another episode. Who are we throwing out there next to Kobe Bryant?
Like, yeah, I think we have to go maybe D Wade because he's the only one that can compare to Kobe defensively out of Harden and Kobe during the peak. What do you agree with that?
Yeah, let's put Dwayne Wade against Kobe because I think for a peak argument that's the only way we can make this win, and we agreed Harden or Dwayne Wade was the better peak. Identifying Kobe's peak is hard for me. Okay, I wrote down 2008 to 10 for Kobe Bryant, and then I put three peak Kobe and then dead team Kobe, which was 05 to 07. Um, like there's things to consider with him, and that's why we agree that if this is a greatness debate, Kobe
Yeah.
Bryant's definitely number two because we're talking about three-year stretches with Kobe Bryant. We're talking about 1 3-year stretch with Dwayne Wade and James Harden, but we're trying to see at their best who was the best.
So you're thinking 08 through 010?
Maybe
Or 07
I
through
can
010?
definitely be swayed though. Um, and yeah, so if we want to go like scoring volume, I think the 3-year stretch, at least for points per game, is 05 06 to 07 08. Um,
Yeah.
08 was Kobe's MVP season. That's his alone MVP. We'll adjust it to per 100 possessions. I doubt it changes. Yeah, it doesn't change. It's still 05 06 to that range. But then there's also like if you go per 100 possessions, there's a stretch in 2010, 2011, 2012 where he's still averaging um
Over 35.
yeah, not even over 35. Like it's close to 40
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
in that stretch before it's not too much above 40. So if I don't.
And then do we maybe try to take his best defensive seasons? Because during 08 through 010, he was DPOY 5, 7, and 12.
Dang.
I think I think I'd be cool. I'm cool with like 05 through 07. I don't know. But I
Okay,
also like that. I think I like that 08 through 010 maybe. The
so
one that you were originally at.
scoring efficiency wise relative to league average, he's like above league average in the first or in the dead Lakers stretch. So I think that's his best scoring seasons for sure. And that other stretch, the 7 or the 8 through 10, he's still above league average, but it's like there's a league average season in there. There's a 3% season in there. So it's a little bit less efficient. Um, like it sucks that like um, well, yeah, he just has three league average seasons in a row from 2009, 2010 to 2011, 12, and then he has like one of his best seasons in 12, 13 where he ties his career high in true shooting plus, which 7% above league average. Um, so I don't know. I'm kind of torn on the scoring. I think his best scoring is definitely in 2005 through 8
I agree.
in that one
Yeah.
because it's the highest volume and efficiency, and then passing wise, like is it?
Passing wise, it's probably around there too. I
Yeah,
mean, he had a really good year in 04, 05. Oh, wait. Oh, but it cuts off at 05, 06. But he still averaged 5 assists, 5.4 assists twice during that year. And he didn't really get up above that until like 2012, 2013. So I think that still lines up.
yeah. So I'm looking at and like the assist volume is like about the same, no matter what years we slice it from. But like
Mm-hmm.
his turnovers are like, or wait, was that? Yeah, no, I think 0506 is probably the best passing stretch too. If you go
Oh,
0506 to 0708, I think that's his best passing. And then
you're looking at like the assist percentage. Oh,
I'm assist per 100
okay, okay,
possessions.
okay. All right, bet.
Yeah, I feel like that's his best passing stretches if I had to slice it. So I mean, that's peak offensive Kobe Bryant is then. I mean, the defense is. We'll look at that because I have a feeling like the best defense of Kobe Bryant is going to be like the three-peat Lakers, and then like the three-peat. So the crazy thing is like there's an argument that three-peat Kobe could even be as good as those other two guys, but those other two guys are like the guy with Dwayne Wade and Harden, and then Kobe was the guy in all his other seasons. So it's really hard for me to point to the three-peat team.
Because that's the one with Shaq.
Yeah, that's the one with Shaq, and
That's the one
like,
with peak Shaq. Or yeah, very good Shaq.
yeah, and like in the three-peat seasons, like in 2002, like they were better with Kobe on the bench than Kobe on the floor in 2002.
Yeah, I think maybe we stick to the years where he was like the main focus, right? I feel like that might be the main.
Yeah,
Let me see. Yeah, I mean he was yeah. Let's see, 2000. I mean, he decent usage. Yeah, I think he was the yeah. I think we're both kind of on the 0506 starting point, right?
yeah, yeah. Let's go with
Mm.
that. That's yeah. I think 0506 is where I would go with it because even if you look at like the on-court defensive ratings that year when Kobe Bryant's on the floor, like they're a 111 and or no, that's the year before. They're 105 in 2006, a 109 in 2007, and a 105 in 2008. Those are like, all right, yeah. So when Kobe's on the floor and like this peak stretch, the Lakers defense is a 10 is 6 points worse with Kobe in 0506 and um 06 07 they are 1 point better with Kobe Bryant on the floor, and then 07 08 they are a half point better. So like he's consistently a almost driving force, and then like in 2009 2010 the Heat are 2.5 points worse with Dwayne Wade defensively, and then 3 points worse and 708 defensively, and then and the other year went away. Um, where did it go? It was at 809, and then 809 was the monster year where like Dwayne Wade was like a huge impact guy. Yeah, that was the year where they were 3 points better with Dwayne Wade out there. So Kobe Bryant has 2 years where they're like marginally better, and then Dwayne Wade has 2 years where they're marginally worse, and then 1 year where they're like really a lot better, and then Kobe has a year where they're like horrible in comparison to him. So it's really hard to shake up like the impact, but then like we can look at like the stat accumulation volume, and I think that points to Dwayne Wade. So like defensively, I think they're pretty close, but I don't think it's like a huge difference. I don't know. Like, what do you think?
I mean, it sounds like maybe Dwayne Wade is very comparable to Kobe Bryant individually. I think maybe Kobe Bryant's team defense was a little bit better, like him fitting on the team.
Maybe. It's like the Jimmy
But
Butler team defense versus the Anthony Edwards team defense. Even though
yeah,
I don't even think Dwayne Wade was a lot better of a team defender than Anthony Edwards. But like
yeah.
Kobe,
I mean, it sounds like I mean individually that like which from what you've read out to me that Dwayne Wade sounds like he was a better maybe a better individual player during these peak. But it sounds like Kobe was better like on the floor for the Lakers defensively. Like he helped
yeah,
the like right? Am I
it was two positive seasons in Kobe's favor, and then one like super negative one versus Dwayne Wade having one like super positive one and
and the negative
two.
one was in '07.
It was one of the.
Sorry.
uh, let me. It was okay.
Because I'm thinking because I'm looking at it in like I
Yeah,
don't
because
know.
you can look at which like that specific season, like what was going on.
Yeah.
So it was 0506. They were like way worse with Kobe on the floor.
Yeah. That was like the most games he played during that stretch. That 3 year peak
Yeah.
too. I think I actually clicked on this Lakers team though. Yeah, so uh man. Um so they had Lamar Odom, Smush Parker, Kwame Brown's bum ass. Uh yeah, I don't know. I this team just like kind of doesn't look that crazy even or no, I guess no, you said it doesn't it's not about the team, it's about when Kobe came off the floor or when Kobe was on the floor, they were worse, right?
Yeah, they were like really bad defensively that year when Kobe was on the floor. So like the
Yeah.
guys who were starting with him versus who was on the bench, I guess is kind of what we would be looking at. And I don't know, I'm looking at this Dwayne Wade season and it's like
And then wait, no, I was gonna say maybe. I mean, because he was scoring a lot, he was not trying to. But that last season was his highest points per game of his career. So, and he was, and like you said, they were significantly better when he was on the court. So I don't think that was the issue.
yeah, like they were still a lot better with Kobe out there. It's just the offense was so much better, but the defense was a good bit worse.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, but he made up for it in the offense, pretty much.
So as I've gone through like the numbers, like it does look like Dwayne Wade was the main driver in '08 to '09. And then in the other two seasons, they were significantly worse. One of those was a season where Dwayne Wade missed some time and they were the worst team in the league. And then the other season was 2009, 2010 where they were just not a great team, right? They were a 47 win team and they were a top 10 defense though. So I don't know. It's really hard to make up how impactful they were defensively because eye test wise, like they were pretty solid. They could both stay in front of you. And I don't know, Dwayne Wade maybe more had the miraculous play aspect to his game. Like I would say he was more of like your Draymond Green where he would erase some things, but Kobe
Oh,
Bryant was more in the case of like Jimmy Butler where he would just rotate early. And I guess that is kind of Draymond Green. So maybe Draymond Green was a bad comparison for Dwayne Wade, but those guys would just get into the spot beforehand and shut down actions. Versus Dwayne Wade would erase a little more shots at the rim. Um, but like, I guess this is just like a philosophy question. Would we rather have this season where Dwayne Wade clearly was the driver of a good defense, or Kobe Bryant seasons where he has multiple seasons that we can tell are impactful? Versus Dwayne Wade, where he has that one season where he's clearly a driver, and then the other seasons where it's just like he probably is hurting you out there.
it it's really hard because I mean, obviously, I think that even though Kobe Bryant's was an impact defensively, it sounds like he never had an impact like Dwayne Wade had when Dwayne Wade was the driver of that defense, right? Um,
Yeah.
I don't know because it's tough. I mean, but he only had that 1 year where Kobe had two pretty good years where he was consistent.
And
It's
then
hard.
one, like, yeah.
Yeah, but then he had the one like really shitty year, and I don't think Dwayne, even though Dwayne Wade had two bad years, how were they that egregious? Like Kobe's.
So they were like plus 2.5 points. They were 2.5 points worse defensively when Dwayne Wade was on the floor versus off. And then Kobe's bad season was like 6 points. And like
It's
at their
so hard.
peaks,
I want to say Kobe because of the consistency, but I don't know because I mean 2 points is a bucket. Like that's not that crazy. So I mean, I guess I'll go. I guess I'll go D Wade. I guess I'll go D Wade. But I do have a question. What do you feel about the talent that Kobe was playing with during these season? Because I mean, I the only name I really am seeing here is like Lamar Odom. Um, and I know Dwayne Wade also had some bad teammates. You already mentioned that in the Harden case. So I was just wondering what you kind of feel about Kobe's team compared to uh, compared to this team because they weren't really a contender until they trade for Pau Gasol and then they made a run in the finals if I'm remembering correctly.
yeah. They traded for Pau Gasol, went back to back, is what ended up happening. Um,
I think Lamar Odom is a really good player. But I'm just looking at it and he was averaging 15 points a game,
yeah. But
which is good, but like I don't know.
yeah.
And then you
So
have and then after that everyone else is averaging 10. And Luke Walton, legendary coach, is your third best scorer and also you have Kwame Brown in there who I'm sorry, I'm not trying to shit on Kwame Brown, but you know, he had some issues throughout his career.
so I pulled up the 05-06 Lakers, and like it is pretty talent devoid, and I would say probably a little bit worse than like the Dwayne Wade teams that we looked at, but like I don't think like
Do you think it's like that crazy of a difference? Is that what you're trying to say? Like, yes, it
I
was worse, but it wasn't significantly worse.
it's like probably like 20% worse. That I don't know if I had to
Yeah.
there's no way to like put a numerical value on that, but
No. Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
worse. Um, but like I don't think either of them really played with good talent.
Yeah. During these peaks.
Like just to call out another guy who I wrote down to at least mention today, like if DeMar DeRozan was on these teams are in the lottery. I feel like both of them.
Crazy
So
man.
it's a unfortunate DeMar DeRozan stray, but like the same thing happens with any other
I have a feeling we have
shooting
very
guard.
different shooting guards written down after the main.
I'm excited for the other names that we wrote down today because I think there's gonna be some fun ones. Um, yeah, so I don't know. Talent wise is hard, and then like I don't see any like huge drivers of defense on these Laker teams though.
Yeah,
Is the
that's what I'm
thing
saying.
that would be playing without Kobe on the floor.
Yeah.
So there's not much to read into it like lineup wise with me. Kobe, like I just feel like he was probably just bad defensively that year because that was his first year with this huge offensive load, and then the next year was a little bit better after he acclimated himself. So like maybe how I kind of feel about this is like over the course of their 3 season peak, Kobe might have been a little bit better, but maybe that one individual season Dwayne Wade was better. But I don't know if I could have ever been like since over that 3 year peak, the average 3 year peak for Kobe was better. You know you
Hmm.
understand what I'm trying to get at here?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like that 3 year peak in totality for Kobe was better. Dwayne Wade's one season was probably better than Kobe's one season, but yeah, that's how I feel about it. I think so. I'm perfectly fine to say, hey, Kobe's still the second best talent shooting guard on this list, and unfortunately, we don't have some of like the advanced data stuff with these with Michael Jordan stuff, because I think it would be really fun to look back at it. I think we have advanced data for the last 2 seasons of the second three-peat, but we don't have it throughout his entire career. So I guess we've stamped ourselves now that Kobe Bryant was indeed the second best shooting guard, probably. Greatness wise, there's no debate for either of us really. Talent wise, I think it's a little more interesting, and that's why I wanted to at least do the episode. Other players, I'm really interested in some of the other guys we wrote down. You said there were some what if guys, and is one of those what ifs Tracy McGrady? Because I think he's actually like
Kind of, but I also think T Mac has a legitimate case to be like a not what if guy too.
Yeah.
Because he did have a really good career, but there also is a what if factor with him because he never made it past the first round, in his career, and he also, which I guess really doesn't help. That doesn't really go to our case because we're talking about the regular season. But he also had knee injuries, right? He had a lot of knee problems throughout his career.
Yeah. So like if we're talking about like the 3-year peak,
Oh yeah,
like he's
let's
not
go
a
to
what
that.
if. But
Yeah,
if we're talking about like um just overall greatness, then Tracy McGrady's probably a what if.
no, yeah, let's go to the peaks. Yeah, for sure. And I have a really interesting one. Um,
Okay,
Hold
rattle it
on.
off.
Let me go to this. Let me go to this
Reference
peak real
page.
quick. Huh?
The reference page. Yeah, I'll throw out a couple guys.
No, yeah. Oh, I'm here.
Okay. Just
My probably my biggest what if guy was Brandon Roy, I think.
let's read it. I love the Brandon Roy comments.
I mean, it's not, the numbers aren't as eye popping. This is kind of more for like a. I don't think this is the tier. This is definitely not a tier where we're talking about like the Kobe's, the Dwayne Wade's. This is more maybe like with modern guards. I think I don't know, maybe DeRozan. I think DeRozan maybe had some better peaks scoring wise.
It is
Um,
DeRozan. That's what it is. Yeah.
yeah. But so I mean, his best years were 08, 07, 08 through 2009, 2010. He averaged 19.1 points per game in 2007, 2008. He was a 34% 3-point shooter, shooting at shooting three a game. He was also 45% from the field. And then in his next year, 22.6 per game, 22.6 points per game, All NBA second team, also ninth in MVP voting. Um, Shot really well from the 3-point line that year as well, 37%. Even though it's with three attempts a game, but still really great shooter. And then the last year was 21.5 points per game, where he was NBA third team. And he still shot the 3-point ball well, 33%. Really efficient scorer, I think. And he could also pass the ball pretty well. 5.8 points, 5.8 assists, 5.1 assists, and 4.7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a guy who I mean, he only played 6 years in the league, and one of those was only 5 games, and he really didn't play like a. He played a good amount of games, but like 74, 78, and 65 games during that 3-year stretch. I think this is a guy, if he got a little bit more opportunity, he would be talked about more in the NBA world, especially with like maybe some of the casual to like non-casual, like semi-casual fans. I guess like they know ball, but it's also a little bit not. But yeah, I think Brandon Roy. I don't really have the defensive numbers up, uh, but yeah, I think Brandon Roy, and he took a Portland team to this was a struggling Portland team. Brandon Roy, if he would have stayed, him and Damian Lillard would have been something special to watch. And I think a lot of Portland fans agree with that. But yeah, I think, and he's. I mean, these are numbers similar to, like I said, even probably Tracy McGrady's best years.
Yeah.
No.
Not quite, but
But
On
some Tracy McGrady years. But yeah, I think Brandon Roy is really interesting. Like I said, I think he's very underrated, and he should be talked about, especially with those 3 years. Not a bad shooting guard at all.
Yeah, those 3 years were like actually really good. Like I knew they were good, but then you go back and you look at them and then like, oh yeah, they're like really good. Like 5% above league average shooting efficiency. If you adjust per 100 possessions, his scoring numbers actually like do look a little bit better than the 22 a game that he averaged. And like passing efficiency wise, like he's actually like pretty good per 100 possessions. It's 7 assists and 2.8 turnovers. Like not a bad passer by any means.
What a Sorry, real quick. The button is the defensive rating. I see the defensive rating now for Roy. It says per 100 possessions, 110, 109, 109. How's that? Is that pretty decent? Are you seeing the same things I'm looking at,
Hold up, I got
or does that
something in
make any
front of me.
sense?
Yeah, that is in front of me. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. And then like, but like these offensive ratings are like legit. Like a
No, I know.
123 offensive rating in 2009.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that year he was a crazy shooter.
Like if we're in the modern NBA, like in the current landscape that we are now with analytics, like that season's getting like that's getting some buzz. Like that's a ridiculous 2009 season.
And not only
Um,
that, I mean, that's off like 4 3 pointers a game. And if we talk about like today's game, people are shooting well over that. And he was making it at a good clip with like 34%, 37, 33, and like you said, 5 points ahead of league average percentage or efficiency percentage wise. So
oh my God. Yeah, in 2008, 2009, when Brandon Roy was out there, they were
I
plus
was muted the whole.
8.7, and when he was off, they were like getting outscored. Like he hasn't playing at like a title contender level, and then like it's a unit that overall gets outscored when he's not out there. Like that's a crazy season. And I see why you called me asking if he won MVP that season, because that is a like, that's
I may have
better than
been a
your
little misguided.
that's better than your average ninth MVP finish. I'm
Yeah. Oh,
100% certain.
I mean, if you look at the what? Sorry,
100%.
I think my mic was muted during one of my takes. I don't know. I might be tripping.
What was it?
When I was talking about the field goal percentage is his shooting percentage and his 3 point attempts per game. Did you hear
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I heard it. I
Oh, okay,
agree.
word.
Yeah. Like if
Oh,
he
okay. Yeah. And that MVP year, I mean, it was LeBron, Kobe, Dwayne Wade, Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, Chauncey Billups, Paul Pierce. I mean, we already talked about this MVP
yeah.
race before, right? So that was a hard year to make that MVP top 10 voting. So I think it's really impressive, and I mean a team from Portland, and he was only like 24 at this time. Like he had so many years ahead of him.
For
We probably would.
context too, like Dwight and Chris Paul were 23.
Yeah, that was like prime or not prime Chris Paul. That's when Chris Paul was really scoring the rock.
Yeah. If I had to guess, like if this was happening today, like Brandon Roy would be seventh, probably. Like I didn't look into, Paul Pierce and Tony Parker, but he would have probably been, and he would have been sixth, even ahead of Chauncey Billups. Like Chris Paul and Dwight were in their primes at this point, so like he would have probably fallen in that category. But
Yeah,
like we're saying behind a prime Dwayne Wade that we just argued was as high as the peak potentially as Kobe Bryant. First MVP LeBron James, Dwight Howard who went to the finals this season, and a prime Chris Paul. Like that's the competition Brandon Roy was up against. Okay, I guess we have to talk about Allen Iverson, and we're gonna get to him really quickly. Um, a couple guys we'll like fire through a couple guys that we do want to throw out there. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was kind of like the reason we did this episode because we are talking about him last week. He's kind of just a point guard, and this kind of gets me to the point where like once we go through all these names, we're gonna say like, do we think this guy would be a point guard today?
yeah.
I think like everybody here except for like probably Kobe Bryant and a couple more of these guys would just be point guards. Um, So
Yeah,
names,
maybe. Yeah, yeah. I think the guys we talked about so far mainly point guards, except for Kobe.
names that I just want to throw out there. Uh, Klay Thompson is interesting. Like he's not like the volume scorer that any of these other guys are, but
Wow, I like that actually.
I think once you get out of that tier with like these super big volume scores that are clearly number one option guys, like you can make an argument that you might rather have the defensive versatility of Klay Thompson and the spacing ability of Klay Thompson. Like you could make that argument, I think. With that, Ray Allen gets in there for me. DeMar DeRozan, I mentioned before. I think DeMar DeRozan's going to finish with like 33,000 career points, and people are going to be like, wow, like, how did that happen? And is, I guess, a similar level like Devin Booker. Like, Devin Booker is going to be a top 10 all time scorer.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
it's going to happen. I wrote down Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell. Devin Booker because he's going to be an all time scorer, and then Donovan Mitchell because he's probably better than Devin Booker. I don't know. They're really similar.
I
Tracy
gotta.
McGrady,
Oh,
Vince
sorry.
Carter, and Allen Iverson were guys that I wrote down. And there's one more that I do have a quick little thing that I want to give in on. Manu Ginobili was awesome.
Come
He was a
on,
sixth
let him
man.
know. Let him know.
He was a sixth man, all right? So people don't understand how good Manu was. If you look at his per 100 possession numbers, he's averaging like 30 points a game in his prime on these Spurs teams. He's like an excellent passer, like he's a very good passer. Like it's in these range where it's like, like 7 to 8 assists. At one point it got to 9 per 100 possessions, and then like the turnovers are like at 4 a game. So like he's a pretty good passer. Like probably in the range of like a Dwayne Wade, a not peak passing James Harden. Like he's kind of in that range. And then I think the big case with him is the on court impact on like the great San Antonio teams is ridiculous, right? In uh 2014, this was an older Manu Ginobili. They were plus 13 when he was on the floor. He had a plus 7 on off. This was a complete bench player. And let's see, another title season. In 2007, they won the title this season. This was half bench, half starter Manu. They were a 13.4 when he's on the floor, a plus 8.7 on off. So they were still outscoring teams when he wasn't on the floor, but like they were playing at an all-time level with Manu on there. In 2004-05, this was a full year of a starter Manu Ginobili, plus 16.6 when Manu's on the floor. Now some of this is with like he's starting next to Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker and all that. But then they were like 100. Their on off was plus 17 in favor of Manu. So they were getting outscored with Manu on the bench in those seasons. And I'll pull up the Tim Duncan numbers, but I don't think that's consistent with Tim Duncan. I'll let you. Is there anybody else that you want to throw out? Because there could be a couple guys who didn't make.
I was. I mean, I wrote Vince Carter down. I wrote T Mac for sure. And then let's see. And then AI, yeah, I think those are my main guys. I went kind of old school with this one, more like the early 2010 guys. I wrote down maybe Gil, but I think he's more of a point guard. And you think Kyrie's a point guard as well? I think, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah, I
think
agree.
Kyrie's interesting.
Especially his peak years.
When is peak Kyrie? Because that was the hardest thing for me to decide. Like
I mean,
it's
I'm
like
feeling like
miniature.
Cavs, or maybe Cavs, and then he was a point guard for the Celtics too. That's kind of where I see, and then he kind of was for the Nets, but
It,
until Harden came,
yeah, I
because
agree.
Harris, I think Joe Harris was the two, or maybe no, he was the
Karis
three, and then
LeVert.
did Karis LeVert, yeah. Yeah, so I think I put Kyrie as a point guard. Um,
Like I don't.
but then Vince Carter's hard because most of his really good years were as a small forward, or at least, eh.
Mhm. He had a lot of small forward seasons. Tim Duncan I think is interesting because, or Manu
What?
Ginobili is interesting because in that 2000 in that 2002 season, Tim Duncan when he was on the floor was plus 8.7, and like Manu, like I said before, is like a plus 17. They're still getting outscored with Tim Duncan on the bench, but like I don't know, like there's a lot of indicators too. Like offensively, like Manu was the driver of some of those early Spurs teams before. I think Manu had a knee injury in like 2010. 2011 he had a knee injury, and after that he kind of wasn't the same offensive player. There's a ton of interesting stuff. If you want the video explanation on it, there's a Thinking Basketball video on it on Manu Ginobili that's really interesting because it's like this is what would have happened with James Harden if he stayed on OKC. I think like this is what would have happened, and um, we didn't get to see that thankfully because James Harden became one of the great all-time greats, and we're talking about him with Kobe Bryant and Dwayne Wade. Um, we have to talk about it before we leave. Allen Iverson, because there's a lot of people who are going to argue Allen Iverson could probably be 3. And we have him more in this range with these other guys. I'm interested, what got you there?
What with Allen Iverson at the with the Kobe's and the James Harden?
Outside of the Kobe's, like what was the big reason for you?
I think efficiency and passing or or
Defense.
defense too. I think efficiency is a big thing, and the defense is a big thing. Um, and also, I guess we're not talking about peaks though. Yeah, so I think we're talking about peaks and not like whole careers. But yeah, I think the other guys were better defensively, or in Harden's case, just way better scoring during the peaks. And efficiency. Again, I have to go back to that. Let me pull them up real quick.
Yeah, like Allen Iverson, the efficiency with him, like it's more and more jarring every time I look at it because okay, relative to league average, he was like at his peak he was a league average guy. And like he was consistently like 5% below league average efficiency wise. And like I don't know. I feel like Allen Iverson more so than anybody here. He's like it was definitely a point guard, and I think I even looked at it before in because with him, like if there was going to be an argument, it's like hey, like there's this huge swing with Allen Iverson on the floor versus not on the finals team that made the finals. They were better with Iverson on the bench, and I don't. I just I find it really hard to argue for him. And like any season where like his on court is overly positive, like they're consistently like a good team even with him off the floor more times than not. Um, the 2018 team when he was on Denver was a pretty positive signal. The 2002 team was a positive signal, but
Oh,
those weren't like super big volume scoring seasons. So it was really hard for me to like find him. Um, I mean, I guess the 2002 season was definitely a volume scoring season, but it was just really hard for me to make an argument for him being like in that top tier because he's not efficient and the teams kind of weren't really impacted by him being on the floor. Like it was hard. So I'll
also, he's
let you get your
averaging 42 minutes a game.
yeah,
That's like 6 minutes above most of these guys. During his peak, right? Um,
like ridiculous. If you go to like the per 100 possessions, like the scoring averages are still good though. I think is the big thing. Um, they were pretty slow paced teams. so that helps him out. I think his per 100 possessions are like in line with like Dwayne Wade and Kobe Bryant still. So
do you think, are you on the, but you're definitely on the Kobe, D Wade, and Harden are better?
like leaps better, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Um,
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very interesting the point that you make about the team not being as good with AI on the, or they're still good with AI on the bench.
yeah, like just inconsistent signals. I think some of that,
Hold
and
up. Oh my gosh. Wait.
what?
Was he taking 30 field goals a game? Oh, that's per 100 possessions. Oh my god. Tripping, bro. I was tripping. There's no way. Okay,
We're at the
okay.
dark hours. We'll believe anything
Dude,
we see.
I was so confused. I was like, bro, wait, why is that like way more than everyone? And it still is. Oh,
Yeah,
wait. Yeah, 20, 31, 32. That's that's way more than Harden was taking per 100 possessions. I mean, the
Harden.
most Harden got up to was 32, and he never really broke 30. I mean, he was up there, but like Iverson was consistently over 30 points per game or 30 field goals attempted a game.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
and again, and the efficiency was leaps better from Harden.
like way like James Harden's efficiency, I think, is like the founding argument for him being even in consideration for
Oh
that
yeah, because if
that
he was
free
shooting
list.
10 points per game and wasn't hitting 36, 37, his his
Yeah,
shit would be shot.
yeah. Um,
um,
I think Iverson more so than any other player, just because he's 6 feet tall and was probably like 170 pounds. Like, if he played today, he's a point guard. He played a good bit of point guard, like a little bit later in his career.
yeah, with
Um,
that shitty the Memphis, that shit always just irks me. His Memphis days, because
uh,
that just made no sense. That was like a
Nuggets
big.
too.
That was just like a for the culture move to get him with Melo, and that shit just did not work. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well,
yeah. Oh wait, no, I'm tripping. Not with Melo, but when he went to Memphis and like
yeah.
only played 3 games.
Um,
um,
I
yeah,
guess now let's go through the other names, or because this we're putting this in context with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because if he played in the early 2000s or the 90s, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's a shooting guard back then. Like, do we agree? Because
yeah.
he's
How tall
like
is he?
6'6".
Okay, yeah, for sure. He's probably in that like the Kobe McGrady kind of like small forward shooting guard.
Yeah,
Would you agree with that? Like kind of
just because the
versatile in that way.
traditionalism with the height at
Oh
positions.
yeah. Like it was more like not skill. Like
Yeah.
you see Wemby taking the ball up the court and Jokic taking up the ball up the court, but that shit would not fucking fly back then. If you were a certain height, you were playing a certain position.
Okay. So if they're drafted today, Dwayne Wade, what position is he? 6'4".
I think I'm okay. I think he'd be. I think he's a combo guard, but right, like a shooting guard
Like a
slash
Donovan
point guard.
Mitchell.
Yeah, but I think you get a piece. I think you draft him as shooting guard.
I think so too. He's like
I
your
think you draft him as a shooting guard. Harden is a little different because Harden is hard because
because
he can
Harden
play
played
make
point
so
guard.
well. Yeah, he played point guard at the shooting guard position just off of usage. Like he was bringing the ball up the court half the time, and his assist numbers were. He was a really good playmaker. So I
And
think
like
I think all these guys are like combo. I mean, they played. I think Dwayne Wade not really as much. I don't know how much point guard Dwayne Wade really played throughout his career, but I think a lot of these guys played two different positions. Like even Kobe, like when Kobe in his later years turned into more of like a small forward, and so did McGrady. Um,
yeah.
I don't know.
In 2017, Harden by Basketball Reference was classified as a point guard. That was the year he averaged 11 assists.
Yeah.
In 2 seasons, or in one season where Chris Paul was on the team, Harden by Basketball Reference played more minutes at point guard.
But was classified as a shooting guard.
Yeah, and then since he left Houston, he's been classified as a point guard. So Harden for me, like if he gets drafted in 2025, he's a point guard.
I agree.
Kobe Bryant, I still think stays as a shooting guard. Manu Ginobili,
I think stays.
I think he stays. Brandon Roy,
I think Brandon Roy stays because I think Brandon Roy
he's
was
6'6" as well.
so I think he's that
Sneak.
shooting guard. Yeah, because hold up. I mean, yeah. I mean, he got assists, but I don't think his playmaking was at the level of these guys that we were just talking about.
Yeah, he was never a volume playmaker compared to some of these guys.
Vince Carter, very underrated 3-point shooter. He had one of the
He's
best
like
3-point
third all
totals.
time.
Yeah, and like just from a percentage standpoint too, like efficiency, you not that
James
bad.
Harden. I think Harden's third all time now, and Carter's fourth.
Oh,
I
with
think is
made
what's
threes.
happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's crazy. Two of the guys are still active.
Okay. Klay Thompson, Tracy McGrady, and Vince Carter. I think all stay shooting guards. And then like Tracy McGrady like probably plays some combo forward type of thing. But then like there's also a world where he's kind of like your Luka Doncic small forward. But I think those guys all like I don't think they're drafted as point guards. Klay Thompson definitely isn't, and Vince Carter definitely isn't. DeMar DeRozan, I've always had the hot take. If he was drafted today, he's definitely playing the point guard spot, like
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. You made that. You like that point forward position for him.
Donovan
I
Mitchell, Devin Booker, Ray
I feel like
Allen.
okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like especially in Toronto, he was more of a shooting guard, and then when he transitioned to when he moved to the Spurs, it was more like a small forward type, or he moved into forward, and then now he is a forward,
Yeah, like now he's playing the four. And
which
like
is
in
crazy.
Chicago, the past couple of years, he played the four. But like since he left Toronto with like a natural point guard in Kyle Lowry, like he's become a really good passer. And part of me thinks that like that would have still happened if like that would have happened a lot earlier if he wasn't playing with an actual point guard in Kyle Lowry.
Kyle, big old booty Lowry.
That's staying in. That's staying in. Okay.
Sorry, bro.
Um,
That's my instincts. When I hear him.
Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker.
I think Devin Booker. I want to look at because I think Devin Booker's peak is probably crazy. No, like
He's he's definitely got the sneaky um like James Harden aspect of his game. Like Devin Booker's been averaging like 23 since he was like younger than 23.
okay, hold on. Something's popped up. For Tim Hardaway won't get off my screen for I didn't even click him. Um, yeah, I mean, damn. I think and his peak is probably 2022, 2021, 2022.
Like 21
Average
to 23,
21 to 23.
I would
Yeah.
think. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
didn't
yeah.
I
I
just
yeah,
kind of wrote him down because like I felt like it was disrespectful to not include DeMar because he's gonna score 30,000 per points, and then I was like, well, Devin Booker's gonna score more because Devin Booker's not even 30 yet, and he's been averaging 20 points per
that's
game
insane.
since like we were in elementary school, like ridiculous. And so I was like, well, I guess I got to include Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell, like I'm very confident if Donovan Mitchell is drafted today or he goes to another team that doesn't have a point guard, Donovan Mitchell plays point
Yeah. Um, I agree 100% with that. But he played point guard on the Jazz, right?
guard. Like Mike Conley was there, but like,
Um. Okay.
yeah,
Wait. Oh, okay. I was tripping. They gave him 1 year as a point guard.
with Utah.
Yeah. He averaged
Yeah.
5 assists. Yeah, I agree with you though. And damn, he's only 28 too.
Yeah.
So like, it's so crazy because like we talk about Harden with the Dwayne Wades and the Kobe's, and he's still not done either. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of these guys could be possibly up there with Harden, with the Harden debate soon.
Yeah, that was my next question. Like, what players that like we're seeing now do you think could be up there? Because like we talk about those
Okay.
Mitchell and Booker, because they're gonna get there on a longevity basis. I think like
Yeah.
they're gonna force themselves into some conversations, and it's gonna be like, you know what? Like Allen Iverson might not be five. Like these guys might just be five.
Are we counting Shea as a shooting guard? Because if we do, I think
I don't think
that.
we can.
Yeah. No.
Because
Damn.
like
No.
I
Yeah.
don't
You're right. He's a point guard right now, and he's like.
unless Shea plays seasons as a point guard, like
Hmm.
in or as a shooting guard in the future, like
Hmm.
he's gonna play his whole prime as a point guard. He's gonna play more minutes in his career as a point guard versus like Tim Duncan. He was not a power forward. He played center more minutes in his career than he did power forward, but like he played a big chunk of his entire career at power forward and a bigger chunk at center. So like if Shea is like fragmented, like swinging back and forth, like people are gonna just remember him from his peak. So I don't think Shea will be because I don't think the Thunder will move him off of the spot. Ant,
Yeah. That's what I want to say. Ant. Maybe. I. I'm.
he
I'm
could.
worried about what the Timberwolves are kind of doing right now, so it might hurt his like accolades part of the resume. But I mean, this is his what? I mean, he's just now entering his prime, and he's doing crazy things from the 3 point line, like shooting at such a high clip and making them at such a high clip. And he is probably one of the best dunkers, finishers in the league, behind like John Morant as from the guard position. And then, like, what do you think about Jaylen Brown too?
No.
No, I don't
I
think.
think
I don't think Zach Levine.
I think Jaylen Brown could get himself into that like Clay Thompson, Ray Allen type conversation. Um, I don't.
I think maybe. I mean, you could maybe say maybe some Paul George peak years, like the peaks. No,
He is all small forward. His first couple years
I don't know. I mean, I don't
were
know. I
shooting
think.
guard seasons. Yeah,
Oh, who's small forward? Paul George. Yeah. I
yeah.
agree. I agree. Um, I mean, I'm trying to think about current players. It's.
Um,
I mean, Desmond Bain, but he's kind of a small forward too, and I don't really know if he's going to be like he's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but I don't
I
think
got
he's going to be a Dwayne Wade type. Um, maybe Tyler Hero, I guess, but I don't think he's gonna. These are guys like I'm just trying to throw out. Like currently, I think there's not a lot of players. Yeah, like Ant. I think Ant probably is your best shot.
yeah, because when we look at things like the
Or
really great potential
yeah.
shooting guards are going to be the ones with the ball in their hands, and those guys now just are point guards. Like Shea would have stayed at shooting guard his whole career if he played in the 2000s.
Do you think Luka would have been a shooting guard in 2000s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but we're now at a point where I think like there's a good chance it's Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, and Anthony Edwards, and then like we don't get a shooting guard probably in a long time that could even like
Because I
not
think there's a
even
lot of good shooting guards in the league, but none of them are like elite. They're just like they're good. Like I don't know.
yeah. I guess we have to figure out how to put a bow on this episode.
I think like a recap is we obviously we kind of set our top four. I think peak wise, not
Yeah.
accolade wise. I think that's the big disclaimer. That being obviously probably Jordan, Kobe, then D Wade, Harden, and AI. Or
Ooh.
did we talk about T Mac? Maybe I think T Mac at 5. No.
I think you can find arguments saying that like I think we could make a whole nother episode arguing for like that five spot.
Okay. I think
Like
the
I don't,
top four. I think we settled the top four today for sure. Um,
yeah. I think if we even
top
dug even
three because
further,
yeah.
I think if we dug even further, like I think we would still probably settle with that top 5 or top 4.
Yeah.
So this was an episode. I'm not sure how long this is going to be because there's moments where I definitely have to edit out.
Yeah, this has felt like oh wow, this is probably the longest one we've done.
Yeah, it's
Like
definitely over an hour
just
and a half.
recording wise.
Yeah. Next week's episode, that's what we need to talk about. Next week's episode will be a bi-weekly recap. The NBA is back. Let's go.
Some sad news that we will be talking about though, for sure.
We do need to update the viewers about our fantasy league.
Oh boy. I took a big hit.
We'll do it next time.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was about to get into my whole tale.
You can save your misery for another week.
Found that. By the way, I found that out going to the mailroom at my college on the 10% brightness, and then the mailman was like, "He's too tall." I was like,
"Tell me why I was right." I was also at the mailroom at my college.
Nah, that's actually crazy. What the fuck? That's wild. Okay. But yeah, this was a really interesting app. I think I came in here on some really strong stances, and I think I'm coming away mind changed a little bit. I still feel pretty strongly about certain things, but I agree. I really like what you did with the peak things. What made it brought a lot of things into context. I think it makes for a lot more of an interesting argument. Because I think maybe if you do like you said, if you do the accolades part of it, it's a lot more cut and dry.
Yeah. I think if we just consider how good of players they were versus how much they accomplished, I think it makes for a lot more interesting of an argument. Because if we're talking about the greatest point guards of all time, I don't know. Like, we're going to take the guys who have the most rings and MVPs.
Magic Johnson. I'm playing.
We might do this for other positions. We also have redrafts that we want to be doing, so this is going to be, I guess, a fun extra series to have.
Yeah, we have I think we have some pretty good off-season material for sure. I think Magic Johnson versus Steph Curry could be its whole an own episode probably.
I agree,
because I've heard those are some very interesting comparisons. So yeah.
Okay. We're going to wrap this one up. You guys will see us next week. Bi-weekly recap. We're signing off until then.